Hey guys, Tim with Defense Mechanisms. I'm going to take a few minutes today and talk through some different PID lights, my experience with them in training, and maybe just some pros and cons of each. Let's start right off with the Hel-Star 6, probably the most popular and iconic PID light of all. It's a fantastic light. Its little buddy here, the Hel-Star 5. Very similar lights. These offer a lot of options. You can get these in tons and tons of different programming modes with different color vis light, different patterns of strobe. That's going to be based on your needs. If you're using these operationally, that's going to be totally different than my use in training. But there's some nice things here. So it's really easy to switch these from vis to IR. There's just a button at the top. They come in a lot of different modes. They're really bright. You can see these from a long ways off. I think operationally guys are using these for air-to-ground communication, right? Like there's a lot of good things going on. A couple things to note that are negative is just form factor. The Hel-Star 6 is the biggest light we're going to talk about. It's very chunky. The 5 is much thinner if thickness is an issue for you, but it requires a lot of this vertical space, typically used on the helmet. And so if that space is open for you, no problem. But if it's not, these do take up more space than a lot of the other units. Some pros with these though, they take replaceable batteries, really easy to change out. They're contoured. They Velcro on your helmet real good. They're expensive though. We're talking 140 to 150 bucks for the 5, around 200 bucks for the Hel-Star 6. Not cheap. But these are really good PIDs. They're really bright. Something to think about though, if you're using these in a training capacity, maybe like a low light carbine class, this probably would be all right. But if you're doing low light CQB, this becomes too bright of a PID. The problem that we run into is you have this really bright light on the back of your head and you're standing 1 foot in front of an instructor who's supervising what you're doing, potentially going to stop you, give correction, needs to see what you're doing, make sure everything's safe, make sure you're making good decisions. And this really bright PID light right in their face really robs them of a lot of situational awareness, makes it hard for them to see what's going on, and ultimately compromises the safety of training. So the Hel-Stars are really great PIDs. I'm sure they're great for operational use. You see them all the time. They're amazing for operating on Instagram, and realistically they work just fine for flat range, low light carbine, pistol, that kind of class. But if you're doing a lot of CQB type training where you have an instructor following close behind, these are probably too bright for that. I've seen guys tape them and try to dim them down, but we're going to talk about some other options that just do that better. Kind of next, similar kind of level here is the Mantis strobe. This is another, highly regarded, often seen operational strobe. This is another light that has a few modes. We use some air-to-ground use. This is another expensive light though. This is not 220 bucks. Not a cheap light. Has a little bit better form factor compared to the Hel-Star 6. It's a little more compact, but still thick, still chunky, still nice, has good contour surface for Velcro for the back of your helmet. One of the nice things about this is when it turns on in IR mode, it gives you vibrate, so you can tell it's in mode. But one of the negative things about it is it can be hard to switch the modes effectively. You got to hold both buttons simultaneously, cycle through modes, and so it can be a little clunky to switch modes. But similarly bright. Similar replaceable battery in the back, 1, 2, 3, real easy battery. But just like the Hel-Stars, if you're using this for any kind of training where you have an instructor right behind you, it's too bright. It blinds the instructor, makes it hard for them to see what's going on. But again, another cool one for Instagram, and if you guys are operating operationally. Kind of the next level is a V-Light. This one is an Amazon knockoff, and that's part of the conversation too. V-Light's about 50 bucks, so much more affordable than the strobes we talked about so far. The problem with V-Light is you can't replace the battery, so this is a single-use item, and they do turn on relatively easy, so this can turn on in your kit bag and burn its entire life just sitting in a box in your closet, in your mom's basement, right, that kind of thing. But some nice things about V-Lights is they're flexible, so you can kind of put them wherever. So you guys run them on their shirts for like different colors for left and right identification, or for front and back, so you can see, I can tell if it's the front of you or the back of you. That stuff's real handy. Seen guys run them on the helmet for some of that same communications that these other strobes are used for. The V-Light is very simple to use. It's got one button and 2 modes, right? It turns on in solid, or you can go to strobe and off. That's it. You can get these in Viz colors. You can also get them in IR. So there's a lot of value to that. Something else to note in recent years, you know, if you are not operating operationally with these, you can get knockoffs from Amazon for like 15 bucks. That makes these a lot more affordable, makes it not hurt so much when the battery dies. But it's another solid option. The V-Lights are not as bright as the other strobes we talked about. They still are a little bit bright for having an instructor right behind you, and so we still tape these, or even sometimes we'll spray paint them to cut the brightness down. But a good option, especially for the low cost option from Amazon. If you do buy the Amazon ones, the Velcro is crap and you have to replace it. So note that. Maybe a better option than the Amazon V-Light would be this Unity Spark. Same kind of concept. It's simple Velcro on, small form factor, also non-replaceable battery, so same downside. 2 modes, solid and strobe. You can also get these in a bunch of Viz colors and IR. And these are pretty cheap. They're about 20 bucks, 18 bucks is what I'm having in my notes here. Similarly, these are also too bright for immediate close following of CQB. And you'll see that as a pattern, right? Like there's a reason that when we get to the lights that we're doing, there's a reason we're doing them that way. And it's very much that all these other lights are really good for flat range training. Not so great if you have an instructor right behind your back. They're just too bright. But the Unity Spark is a really good option and probably a better option than buying a knockoff V-Light off Amazon. The next one we're gonna look at, this is by Nitecore. We're seeing people use these a lot as a replacement to the more expensive strobes. This is about 30 bucks off Amazon. That's very nice, very convenient. People like it. It kind of gives you the feature sets of the more expensive strobes, and which is I think why people are using it. It does have some downsides though. This little box is removable from the helmet mount, but the problem is it sometimes removes without, it removes on its own. And that can be frustrating when you go to turn it on, it's not there. The button's really easy to bump and it turns on a little too easy. It's USB rechargeable, which is really handy, but the charge doesn't last for very long. So realistically, if you're looking for a budget PID, I don't think this is the one. I think there's some better options out there for you. A Unity Spark would be a pretty good option. We're going to talk about what we're doing. This unit too, just so you know, also is a little bit too bright if you're having someone follow behind. It's still blinding them and robbing some of their ability to see what's going on and supervise the situation. So we've kind of talked about the strobes that, though they work good in some operational uses, maybe, and some flat range training uses, but we struggle with all of them in CQB. So something that we did, and we had seen some friends do this, and we just kind of brought this old product back. I don't remember where it came from, but this is our this is our PID holder, and inside here is a Bright Strikes A-Pals. And so this is just a simple PID light. We get these off Amazon, get them in a 6-pack. Where's my price notes? 4-packs, 25 bucks, right? So a couple strobe modes and a Viz mode. And in this light, in this configuration, it is still a little bit bright. We like a really dim PID light if we're teaching behind you. And so when you buy just these lights, it doesn't really solve anything that the other lights don't solve. But when you couple it with our PID holder, which is sized for these little A-Pals lights, it's Velcro on. You can stick these on our plate carrier, stick them anywhere you want. We give you 2 different sleeves that you can put this in. So the first sleeve is unobstructed, and so it gives you out this little hole. It gives you that full value of the light from the A-Pals. This is if you're doing flat range carbine stuff, or you don't have an instructor right on your back and you want a little bit brighter PID. This is the way to go. But if you need to dim this down, you slide it out, and behind there's a sleeve you can go behind, and so it puts a piece of Cordura in front of the light, and now it's dimmed way down. Still plenty in pitch black. This is still plenty bright enough for me to see you, to know where you're at, to do its job, to identify you. But it makes it way easier if someone's behind you It really allows them to see what's going on, and it's unobstructed, and it makes a much safer training environment. So these are what we use most of the time. Downsides for sure is these do get bumped on and off in your kit, and depending on which way you put the APALs in, it might turn off on the bottom, it might turn off on the top, and so you have to hunt around for that button a little bit. But when it comes to the actual light and being usable in a instructor training environment, this has become really handy for us. A lot of guys we train with are using these now. We offer these. This is pretty low cost. Like I said, it's about $10 for the PID holder, and a 4-pack of these lights is $25. So they'll last you a while. If it accidentally turns on in your kit, that is one of the downsides. Or you can split them with a buddy. Not too bad. Another thing that we're doing, and we do this. We provide these to all students of TNVC Night Fighter classes. This is our little PID patch, or Chem light patch, excuse me. And this guy works with our little mini chems or with Marco mini chems, and it allows you to just throw some mini chems on here. The expectation is not necessarily that you would run all 3 mini chems glowing, but it gives you some options. TNVC uses these. Every student gets one in the class, and TNVC does some interesting things with chem lights when they are teaching. Is they'll give all the students a specific color. I think it's green, but don't quote me on that. Bill Pete, sorry if I get it wrong. But they'll give all the students a green chem light, and so then they'll know, the instructors will know, hey, I got 15 students. So if they're out on the line, they're trying to get accountability, they count 15 green chem lights. They have all their students. And then their instructors will have red chem lights. And so I'll count 3 red chem lights and say, wait a minute, there's supposed to be 4 of us, and forget that I have a red chem light on my helmet, right? So it lets me get accountability of the people on the range. And because these little mini chems come in all kinds of colors, you can then have blue chem lights for any observers or cameramen or anything like that. So you can count your 15 green chem lights for students, your 3 red chem lights for instructors, and your 4 blue chem lights for observers, right? And so it lets you very quickly know that you have total accountability of your class. Everybody's where they're supposed to be. And so that's really handy. And we just provide a 3-pack here in case you wanted to do any kind of unique team identification. Sometimes you could do, you could have a green, if you're doing team CQB stuff and you needed Viz ID for any reason. We don't do this, but you could have, the green team, the red team, the blue team. You can have the red-green team. Like you can do any kind of thing that you want. You can stick this on in a horizontal orientation. You can stick it on a vertical orientation. If those orientations mean anything to you, you can push the chem lights all to one side so you get more light. You can have one on each side. It gives you lots of variance if you want to really mess with, really dial in your PID practices and how you're going to identify team members. You basically have a world of options here. The other thing that these do is by obstructing about 50% of the chem light, it cuts down how bright it is. It's a common theme that we have. Even these little mini chem lights right in your face as an instructor can be too bright, and so this cuts that down by about 50%. So all of these options are valid. They all have their place. Every one of them is usable in the right situation. We tend to put a lot of our training energy towards CQB, so we've been working on solutions specifically to that. But obviously you should pick the lights that are best for your use and application. If you have any questions, hit us up, contact@Defense Mechanisms. Check us out on all our social channels, and we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, have a good one.